At the city's most glittering charity gala, Elara stood beside her husband, Daniel, a picture of perfect grace. Her smile was practiced, her posture flawless, but every so often a look from her mother-in-law Vivian would find its mark. A subtle frown at her dress, a microscopic shake of the head at her choice of words. Each was a tiny, invisible dot, and Elara's smile tightened, showing the faintest crack in her polished facade. The next morning, the performance continued in the cold, modern kitchen. Vivian supervised Elara's breakfast preparation. Her criticism, a constant, quiet hum. "The china is chipped, Elara. We don't use chipped things. It speaks of carelessness." Then Vivian's hand, as if by accident, knocked a teacup. Hot tea splashed across Elara's wrist, scalding her skin. She stifled a gasp, but Vivian's eyes were pure ice. "Clumsy, dear, clean it up." Just then, Daniel walked in, absorbed by his phone, utterly oblivious. He kissed Elara's cheek, missing the red mark on her wrist, missing the chilling silence, missing everything. For years, this was Elara's life, a slow, grinding erosion of her spirit, performed in the quiet corners of the opulent mansion she called home. Her only escape was a small studio, a room she'd claimed for herself. There, she painted vibrant, emotional abstracts, violent storms, and serene sunsets that mirrored the turmoil and peace she yearned for. The canvases were her true self, a stark contrast to the house's sterile. One afternoon, the door to her sanctuary opened without a knock. It was Bib. Her eyes scanned the room with disdain. "Sentimental clutter," she announced, picking up a painting of a stormy sea. "My son married for connection, Elara, not for you to indulge in." "These?" With a flick of her wrist, she dropped the canvas. The frame cracked. It was no accident. It was a violation, a clear message. No part of this house, no part of Elara's life was truly her own. The breaking point arrived at a family dinner. The air was already thick with unspoken tension when Vivian made a cruel, pointed remark about Elara's childlessness. For the first time, after years of silence, a quiet steel entered Elara's voice. "That is a private matter, Vivian." The table fell silent. The shock was electric. Later, in the hallway, Vivian cornered her. Her voice was a low hiss. "You do not speak to me like that in my house." Then she delivered a sharp, stinging slap across Elara's face. The shock was more violent than the pain. In that instant, something inside Elara shattered, and in its place, something hard and resolute began to form. A few days later, an unexpected guest arrived. Elara's father, Alistair, a man of quiet but immense influence, had decided on a surprise visit. He let himself in through the garden door, stepping into the house just in time to hear Vivian's voice, a venomous whip, berating Elara in the living room. He saw his daughter's shoulders slumped in defeat, a posture he had never seen on her before. The love he had for his only child was his one vulnerability, and as he stood there, unseen, his expression shifted from confusion to a dawning, furious horror. Alistair didn't storm in. He didn't raise his voice. He simply walked into the room, his presence instantly changing its atmosphere. He completely ignored a flustered Vivian, walked directly to his daughter, and gently took her hand, his eyes falling on the faint scar on her wrist. "Come home, darling," he said, his voice soft but firm. Vivian, scrambling to regain control, stepped forward. "This is a family matter, Mr. Harley." Alistair finally turned to face her. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of absolute finality. "I am the Harley of Harley Global." He paused, letting the name settle in the air. "This," he gestured dismissively at the magnificent mansion, "is a weekend project. You have been torturing my only heir." The name hit Vivian like a physical blow. Harley Global was a conglomerate so vast it made their family's fortune seem like pocket change. Her meticulously constructed world of power and influence was a sandcastle before a tsunami. Just then, Daniel arrived, finally sensing the gravity of the situation. Seeing her son, Vivian made a desperate attempt to manipulate him. "Daniel, she's been lying about her family. They're here to cause trouble." But Elara wasn't looking at Vivian anymore. Her gaze was on Daniel, her husband. The sadness in her eyes was profound, but the resolve was absolute. She turned to her father. "I'm ready to go." She walked toward the door, then paused. She turned back, not to her tormentor, but to the man she had loved. Tears streamed down her face, not of weakness, but of grief for the life she thought they had built. "You never saw me," she said, her voice clear and steady. "You only saw the space I occupied in your life," and Witachi walked out, leaving Daniel staring at the empty space where his wife had just stood. Vivia, the matriarch, finally crumbled, the full weight of her social ruin crashing down, as she realized the priceless thing her cruelty had cost them all. Months later, sunlight flooded a spacious city loft. Large, commanding canvases, vibrant and full of life, hung on the walls. Elara stood in the center, a look of peace on her face. On a tablet nearby, a news headline detailed the spiraling business troubles of Daniel's family. She glanced at it, then closed the screen without malice, without triumph. She turned to the window, looking out at her new city, her new life. The story ends on her face, not happy in the simple sense, but whole, complete, and finally free.